Welcome back to AEW Change the World. I've just done booking the very first episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite. There's going to be a link in the description to the skin that I'm using. And with that said, let's run the show. So we begin with a video package, 41 rated. It's an introduction to the show via footage from All Out. Kenny Omega defeated Pac to become the first AEW Men's World Champion, while B. Priestley and Britt Baker both picked up victories, qualifying for the first ever AEW Women's World Championship match. We're then followed by the opening credits as we go live on the first ever episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite. The commentators introduce the show as we see that 5 of the 6 members of the Elite are already in the ring. MJF also stands on the apron as the protege of Cody Rhodes. Brandy Rhodes, Cody's wife, is also there. Kenny Omega then makes his entrance as the AEW Men's World Champion. Before cutting a promo, he says it's great to have all his closest friends with him, but admits that there's someone missing. As he continues to talk about his victory at All Out, Pac cuts off the good atmosphere, bringing his trademark brand of misery to proceedings. He says that he's there to fight, and he's got Hangman Page tonight. He says that everybody else in the ring needs to leave, because this isn't a place for fun or for celebrations, not until at least he becomes the AEW Men's World Champion. Hangman Page steps forward, ushers his friends out of the way, and says he's ready to face Pac in the opening match of the evening. We get a 59 rating for that. I just wanted to open the show with some of the biggest stars in the ring, and of course putting over that Kenny Omega is the new AEW Men's World Champion. That brings us to the first match of the night, and in 7 minutes 37, Hangman Page defeats Pac with a roll-up. He catches him completely off guard. A 46 rating for Hangman and a 73 rating for Pac, and it continues the Pac storyline. It's another defeat for Pac, but I think if we were going to give him another loss, now is definitely the best time to do it. A 64 rating, which is a very good match, and hopefully it'll pass some overness onto Hangman Page, and we can build him up to be getting better than 46s in the coming weeks. After the match, Hangman celebrates his surprising victory, with the commentators putting over that this is one of the biggest wins of Hangman Page's career. Pac tries to get his hands on Page in his frustration after the match, and it causes a scuffle that the referee has to break up. As Page leaves the ring, Pac is left to vent his frustrations, kicking the ropes, shouting at fans, and all that. The commentators then talk about the show so far, promoting the All Elite Showcase in the main event. Kenny Omega, Marty Scurll, Cody and the Young Bucks will face SCU and the Lucha Bros in that match. This turns attention to the tag team tournament, with Don Callis confirming that it will start next week. Excalibur then promotes the Women's World Championship match, which leads into interviews with both competitors. Alex Marvez then has back-to-back sit-down interviews with B. Priestley and Britt Baker, who just get the chance to tell their story and put over how much being the first women's champion of AEW would mean to them. Britt Baker puts over a hard-working and humble nature, while B. Priestley shows a more cocky, confident side, putting down her competitor slightly. Now, this was completely unscripted, and we see Alex Marvez did well, B did not, while Britt Baker masterfully improvised, so that's a good sign, but a 30 rating isn't brilliant, and it's hurting the women's championship storyline going into that match. We then get our first women's match in AEW history. Erica Reed and Kylie Ray are defeated by the established tag team, the Magical Sugar Rabbits from Tokyo Yoshi Pro Wrestling. We've got an injury there. Eric Reed bruised her pectoral muscle and debuted with a fan favourite rating of average, 28 and 25 for them. But as you can see, the two Japanese women got 57 and 44. So Yuka Sakazaki in particular, that's a very good performance. After the match, all 4 women shake hands. The next segment sees commentators talk over footage of guys arriving at the building, just putting over the buzz and excitement in the locker room ahead of the first episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite. Chris Jericho's arrival was shown in stark contrast to his fellow AEW competitors. When he arrived at the building, he was in a tour bus. He stepped out of it, looked around at the building before returning to the comfort of his tour bus. The commentators put over the fact that Chris Jericho has separated himself from the roster in the last few weeks and months, has put himself way above anybody else in All Elite Wrestling. And that 78 rating is really going to come in handy when it comes to the end of the show. Particularly given that we're getting segments like this, just a quick video package looking back at B. Priestley and Britt Baker's victories at All Out. That leads us into the AEW Women's World Championship match. A 34 E+ rating, 31 and 30. That is really below what I was hoping for. Britt Baker defeats B. Priestley with a crossface, making a tap out to become the first ever AEW Women's World Champion. Britt Baker actually the worst of the two when it comes to the ratings by just 1 point, and the Women's Championship storyline is going to struggle. I was hoping for better than that as well. Yes, was Britt Baker celebrates in the ring, making Bea Priestley tap out to become the first AEW World Women's Champion. The name appears on the screen. Tessa Blanchard, Don Callis puts over the Diamond, calling her one of the best wrestlers in the world today. At the top of the ramp, she makes it clear that she has her eyes on the AEW World Women's Champion. Again, we've gone to our Impact Wrestling working agreement, and Tessa Blanchard actually auto-pushes as an upper mid-carder. That makes her the highest pushed female on the roster currently. So hopefully, while that's only a 26 E rating, when it comes to in-ring stuff, she can do a lot better than Britt Baker did in this match. The second hour of the show begins with Chris Jericho making his way to the ring as the commentators put over his multimedia achievements, particularly those within the world of professional wrestling. Chris Jericho shows a general disdain towards the audience, the person who hands him the microphone, everybody in the arena, before cutting an arrogant, unscripted promo where he puts himself over as the star of AEW. He puts down the fans being in the arena, the people watching at home, and the entire success of All Elite Wrestling to Chris Jericho being a part of it. Joey Ryan then cuts Chris Jericho off, sucking a lollipop as he makes his way down to the ring. Jericho makes it clear that he doesn't know who the hell Joey Ryan is, but he's clearly disgusted by somebody having the cheek to interrupt him. Jericho just buries Joey Ryan, calling him a pathetic no-name creep. Joey indicates that he's going to put his lollipop down his trunks, and we all know what happens when he does that. This angers and confuses Chris Jericho, who slaps Joey Ryan in the face before leaving the ring. Joey reacts by smirking, while Chris Jericho makes it clear that people like Joey Ryan don't deserve to share the ring with the greatest of all time. So we just needed somebody to interrupt Chris Jericho during this, just to put over how much he sees himself as above the rest of the roster. Joey Ryan, I thought, was entertaining enough to carry this off, and it just gets him over as a bit of a outsider, strange character, which is what Joey Ryan generally is. Good to see that Jericho came across well and Joey Ryan improvised well, so that is a great introduction to the character of Joey Ryan, and just allows the two of them to play off each other in an unscripted way that hopefully creates some memorable interaction. Sent backstage for an interview segment with Britt Baker. She is asked about her victory and the arrival of Tessa Blanchard. Before she can really get into it, Evilise Velez appears and cuts her off. It seems like Britt Baker is just not going to get her moment tonight. Velez tells Britt Baker not to worry about Tessa Blanchard, saying that the hit woman is the biggest threat to the AEW World Women's Championship. Britt Baker brushes off the interruption and goes back to celebrating as Alex Marvez sends back to the ringside for the next match. Jungle Boy faces Sammy Guevara. He goes for a 450 splash but misses, with Sammy Guevara picking up the victory with a curb stomp. A 17 rating for Jungle Boy, that's the worst of the night. Slightly concerning, but it's early days, so I'm not going to worry too much. After the match, Sonny Kiss joins his tag team partner in the ring and they celebrate. Sammy Guevara rolls Jungle Boy out the ring with his boot, which doesn't sit well with Sonny. Nonetheless, Sonny points to Guevara, who celebrates on the top rope. We then get a backstage interview with the members of the Elite. They promote the All Elite Showcase in the main event. Hangman also talks about his victory earlier in the night. Despite not being a member of the Elite, it's noted that MJF is in the locker room, albeit sat off to the side. The Young Bucks promote the tag team tournament beginning next week and say that tonight's main event is the perfect chance to prove just how good tag team wrestling will be in AEW. Returning from a break, the commentators introduce footage that shows Chris Jericho leaving the building earlier. He was fired up about the interaction with Joey Ryan and took it out on everybody that he came across. He then got back in his tour bus and left the building. The fifth match of the evening, a fairly straightforward squash match. Madison Eagles dominating and defeating Zeta Zhang. Zhang shows some fight, but is in the end not up to the standard of Madison Eagles. Madison Eagles there with a very, very good performance, even better than Yuka Sakazaki earlier, if I remember correctly, a 58. So perhaps there we have the first challenger to Britt Baker's championship. Missed the segment there. It was just a Madison Eagles celebration post-match. She didn't get involved in the interrupting of Britt Baker earlier, but she certainly made her mark as a potential challenger to the AEW Women's World Championship. SoCal Uncensored and the Lucha Bros are then interviewed together, although stupidly I've put Kenny Omega in instead of Frankie Kazarian. Basically, SCU want to take the lead, but Pentagon and Phoenix clearly don't want to be led. The Lucha Bros do agree, however, that they need to put down a marker, and AEW isn't just going to be the playground of the Elite. Despite that agreement, it's clear that the five are not on the same page. For the main event, a montage of clips is shown putting over the rehabilitation process of Joey Janela. It says that Joey Janela has been cleared to compete and he has his eyes on MJF. And there it is, we've actually gone into single figures for a segment tonight, 9 F rating. But if there's one positive to take from that, we've brought the crowd down and the main event is going to have to do a hell of a lot to bring them back up. Which it seems to do with a 70C+. In a decent match, the Elite defeated SCU and the Lucha Bros, Kenny Omega pinning Frankie Kazarian. The story behind the match is just the Elite with a much more well-oiled unit, and Kazarian managed to get isolated by Kenny Omega, who picks up the victory. We've got quite a lot of road agent notes there, so I'm just going to get out the individual performances. Kenny Omega standing out, but Nick Jackson brilliant also. Phoenix, Pentagon, Chris Daniels all did very well. Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian clear weak links in the match, but we've advanced 2 storylines to a very, very productive main event match. After the match, the 5 victorious wrestlers are joined by Hangman Page, who also won in the first ever Tuesday Night Dynamite match against Pac earlier on. MJF tries to join them in the ring with a smile, but is cut off by Marty Scurll, who tells him to get lost. The Elite Six stand tall in the ring, with the commentators making the suggestion that the likes of Chris Jericho and Pac will not be happy with this closing image of Tuesday Night Dynamite. They put over the tag team tournament next week. This segment, and perhaps this night, was just to set up the status quo. The Elite are the top guys, and it is going to be up to the likes of the Lucha Bros, SCU, Chris Jericho and Pac to try and upset that balance. So there it is, the very first episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite in the can. A lot of ups and downs in terms of ratings, some surprises like Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson, but with a 71C+ overall, we fulfilled our broadcaster requirements. We've also set up quite a lot to build on from this episode and learned that perhaps Britt Baker wasn't the right person to be the first AEW Women's World Champion. With that said, we've quickly established a number of challenges to that title, the performance of Madison Eagles and Yuka Sakazaki adding themselves to the frame alongside their debuting Tessa Blanchard and Ivelisse Velez. Next week, we begin the AEW Tag Team Championship Tournament and get the reaction to everything that happened on the debut episode of Tuesday Night Dynamite.